Hi, I'm Vanessa Oliver. I'm a registered dietitian with the UK Health and Wellness Program, and I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about what to do with this giant box of vegetables that seemed like a really good idea back in February. A CSA share can be a little bit intimidating once you get it home, right? Maybe you're not sure what to do with the veggies that are in your box. Maybe you're not sure what the veggies are in your box. So what I want to do is just sort of give you a little bit of tips and pointers, things that I like to do when I'm unpacking my CSA share. The first thing that I would really recommend is take everything out at once and look at it. Make sure you know what everything is. That way, when you look at the handy newsletter that comes with your share, you're able to sort of match the produce with the description. And also you'll know and make sure that you got everything that you're supposed to. So that would be the first thing I'd say. Just take it out, unpack it, look at everything, try to identify what things are, see what you know already, see what's maybe unfamiliar to you and you might need to give a little bit of extra attention to. Then look at that newsletter, right? See if they have any tips for you about how to store things, what to do with things. You'll get your brain working a little bit. And that's always just sort of a good sort of mental state to be in when you're unpacking your share, right? So I'll just go through each thing that I've got in front of me. This is going to be representative of a spring share in central Kentucky. So hopefully you'll get some good tips. Okay. The first thing that I'm going to work with here is asparagus. This is something that a lot of people look forward to getting in their shares, and it's something that you'll want to eat fairly quickly because it's really at its best pretty soon after it's been picked. If it comes in a bunch like this, the first thing you'll want to do is take the rubber bands off, because what these rubber bands do is they actually encourage just a little bit of cell damage on the asparagus stalks, and you want to minimize that, right? Because that's where any sort of asparagus going bad can happen. So once you've got your rubber bands off like that, I don't wash my asparagus before I put it in the refrigerator. I would wash it right before I eat it. But if you maybe have a smaller fridge or if just storage is at a premium in general, you can go on and just snap off a little bit on the end right there if you know that you're going to eat it maybe that night or the next morning. If not, just go on and keep it intact. Put it in a plastic bag, but I wouldn't zip the plastic bag. So I like to use these quart bags, but you could certainly reuse any bag from the grocery store if you have cloth bags, whatever you've got in the house. And I'm just gonna go on, put that in there, keep it open. And I'm going to put it where I know I'm gonna see it. Okay, and that's going to be different for everybody else. Some people are perfectly comfortable with putting their vegetables in the crisper drawer and they'll know that they'll be in there and use them. For some people, you'll never see those vegetables again. So just think about what works for you in your refrigerator. So these are ready to go in the fridge. All right, I'm going to also work with my strawberries next because I do want to get those refrigerated as soon as possible. They're pretty delicate, just like the asparagus. There are two different schools of thought on strawberries. One says wash them right away. One says doesn't. I don't wash them until I eat them. I feel like washing them, unless you dry them really well, if you wash them too far in advance, then it can, again, encourage a little bit of cell destruction, encourage the strawberries to not last quite as long. So I will go on and keep them in a container like this if you get them. It's got a little bit of ventilation in there, so that's going to encourage the strawberries to all get along happy in their containers. I wouldn't stack them much higher than this because you don't want the weight of the berries to smush the ones on the bottom. And I'd just go on and loosely cover them, maybe with a paper towel. You can put an elastic band over that, and that'll keep them from drying out too much in the refrigerator. So there's my paper towel. And those are ready to go. A good tip for washing off your strawberries though, if you know you're going to use them really soon, you can go on and use a salad spinner, which I'm going to break out next. So you can use your salad spinner for a lot more than just salad, like I mentioned. You can use it for delicate fruits and vegetables like berries. You can use it for leafy herbs. You can use it for greens, like cooking greens, and then you can use it for lettuces. So I'm gonna go on and get some of my lettuce washed. And what I'm gonna do with this, I've got 2 heads in this early spring share. So I'm gonna go on and wash one, and I'm gonna leave the other one intact. Whenever you get any sort of green, if there is a band or twist tie or anything around it, which is gonna happen pretty frequently because once your farmers want it to take up less room in the box, go on and take that off to let it breathe, right? This is gonna be the head that I'm gonna wash right away. You wanna sort of get down in there. See, a lot of dirt likes to hide down here by the core or by where they cut the lettuce off. So make sure that you're breaking it down all the way at the bottom. You can tear it if you like, or you can leave it whole and put it in a bowl of water. You can also do this if you have a nice large sink. You fill your sink up with cool water and go on and break up the leaves and stick it in that nice cool water. My salad spinner is not super huge, so yours may not be either. You might have to do this in a couple batches. But the idea is you let it just sort of sit in the water just for a few seconds. This is also a great way if your lettuce, maybe you forgot about your CSA share, maybe it was sitting on your neighbor's porch for a little bit too long, you picked up your lettuce and maybe it looks a little wilted. This is a good way to refresh greens as well. Just letting it sit in the cold water like this, you'll see it perk up pretty quickly. So once you've got your lettuce sort of soaked, you can see some of the dirt is maybe coming off in the bowl. Don't go on and pour the water back over the lettuce, right? Pick the lettuce up out of your water and then you'll stick it in the salad spinner colander. So I'll stick it in here and go on and just dump this dirty water. And this is a really easy and fast way to get your lettuce nice and dry. The drier the lettuce, the more length of time it's going to last in the refrigerator. And plus, the drier the lettuce, the easier your dressing will stick to your salad, so you don't have to use so much. It's a little break on the lid there. Now, once I've got that packed up, I like to take the lettuce leaves like this, and I'll just, again, put them in a plastic bag. I will put a paper towel or a tea towel in there to absorb some of the water, but still leave the lettuce in a nice environment where it's gonna have just the right amount of humidity. Sometimes you're battling the humidity or lack thereof that might be in your refrigerator. So this helps, again, encourage your lettuce to last for at least a week. So like I said, you can use a paper towel. Go on and put it in a bag. Or you can use something like a tea towel. If you don't want to use the paper. So either way, this will last for about a week in the refrigerator. If you'd rather just deal with a whole head of lettuce, you can do a similar thing, but you won't be washing it first. You'll just take the entire intact head, just like this, go on and wrap it up, either in a paper towel or in a tea towel. And again, that towel is just going to encourage the right level of humidity to help keep your lettuce fresh for about a week. And then you'd be able to go and put this in a bag as well. And again, you can put it in either the crisper drawer or the refrigerator, wherever you know you'll see it and use it. I'm going to use the spinner again to do my kale. So kale is something that you will definitely see a lot of in your CSA baskets in the spring and in the summer and in the fall. So learn to love your kale. a few different ways that you can deal with this, especially when you start to get quite a lot of greens. I like to sort of begin the prep because then they'll just take up less room in the refrigerator, right? So first, of course, you'll want to wash it. And the best way to do this is to remove the stem from the leaf. So you can really just tear it just like that, okay? Another way that you can do it is to sort of do an unzipping method where you're holding the end of the stem on one end and then you tear the leaf away from the other, okay? The stems are edible. They just are a little bit tougher. They take a little bit longer to cook than the leaves. Most people will separate the leaves from the stems, but you're not gonna, hurt yourself or anything if you do decide to eat them. So once I've got these pretty well separated, just like that, I'll go on and let these soak a little. Again, lifting the leaves out of the water instead of pouring the dirty water over them. Give them a little spin. Then I have nice washed kale leaves that I can work with. If I wanted to go on and cook these or saute these, I could. If I wanted to go on and cut them up for a raw salad, then I could. And what I'll do here is I'll prep them as if I were doing it for a raw salad. And you can see that I'm taking the broken up leaves out of the spinner and just sort of stacking them on top of each other. And what I've got here on my cutting board, once I have that stack, kind of made a roll like a burrito. And I'm just gonna cut along that burrito. And you can see here you're kind of left with kale ribbons, which is a nice texture to eat if you're doing a kale salad. It's even going to be nice for a stir fry with pasta or to put in something like tacos or something like that. So, and look how much less room it takes up, and it's already prepped. So again, you just want to making this healthy choice, making your veggie choice, make it easy, okay? And think about what things that you can do in order to make it easy for your kitchen. Some other things you can do with your kale, of course, once it's washed like this, go on and wrap it up in a paper towel or again, a tea towel, just like you did with your lettuce, all right? That'll help regulate the moisture. Then you can go on and put that in a plastic bag as well. All right, so you can also store your greens in a salad spinner if you have the room in your refrigerator for that. So a few things I've got left here. I've got some more greens. This is Swiss chard. Sometimes this is new for people who are new to the CSA. It's a really beautiful green that grows well in Kentucky in the spring, summer, and fall. This is a rainbow variety, so you'll get this really beautiful colors here on the stems as well. You might also see Swiss chard with just a white stem. It's just as delicious, it's just not as brightly colored, and you'll see both in central Kentucky. The stems and the leaves are edible, but again, just like the kale, the stems take a little bit longer to cook than the leaves. So you'll usually separate them from the leaves when you're preparing. What I like to do best with Swiss chard is to saute it. So what I'll generally do when I'm getting ready to cook it is go on and just pull the leaves off, just like I did before, and dice up this stem. Probably usually check out the end, make sure it doesn't look too dry. This one looks pretty good. And go on and chop it up just like that. And I'll saute it with onion or garlic in olive oil for about 5 or 10 minutes before I add the leaves. It's got about the same texture as a raw onion, so it's going to cook in about the same amount of time. Once it gets pretty soft, then I can go on and add my leaves, and I can just tear the leaves, or I can do that ribbon technique like I did earlier, where you just roll and slice across. And you've got those ribbons. Again, it's not going to take up quite as much room in your fridge once you go through the whole bunch like that, and it's ready to eat. If you're not ready to deal with your chard yet, do the same thing like you did with the other bunches of leaves, right? Go on and wrap it up in a tea towel or paper towel. And you can either put it in their fridge just like this. Sometimes it's hard to find a bag this big, or you can stick it in a plastic bag. Okay, just a few things left. I've got fresh carrots, which is really nice to see, right? You don't always get to see them nice and intact like this with the greens attached. The greens are actually edible. Maybe if you are feeling a little bit like you want to try something new, then you can make something like a carrot top pesto or add these to your tomato sauce. If not, you can always save the greens, and if you're making a chicken stock or vegetable stock, you can add them in there as well. They have sort of a kind of a carroty flavor, almost like an anisey flavor as well, a little bit. But whenever you're faced with a root vegetable that does have the greens attached to it, I would recommend separating the greens from the root vegetable, because they'll usually last for different time periods in your refrigerator. The greens won't last as long as the carrots will. Also, when the greens are still attached to the root vegetable, they're going to suck just a little bit of water, a little bit of moisture away from that root vegetable. You don't want that to happen, right? You want the water to stay in here. So if I were to get carrots like this, I would definitely take the rubber band off, like I mentioned earlier. Go on and separate the greens from the carrots. And then you can store these separately in a plastic bag if you like. Give them a scrub if you need to, or you can go on and give them a peel. With organic vegetables, it's really up to you if you want to scrub, if you want to peel them or not. Sometimes it depends on what you're doing with them. I'm going to go on and give these a little bit of a wash though, because they're still kind of sandy. And then one thing I like to do with carrots that really makes it more likely that they're going to get eaten in my house is go on and just make carrot sticks. That way I can eat the sticks raw, I can use them with dip, or I can go on and cut them down even further later if I'm gonna go on and make a stew or a soup or something like that. So there are probably lots of ways to do carrot sticks. Not necessarily the expert on this, but what I like to do whenever I'm cutting something that's round is go on and create a flat edge, because that's going to give me a lot more control on the cutting board instead of having something going spinning all over the place. So I just cut off a little bit. You can make that be a very thin carrot stick. Now I have a nice flat surface. So what I'll do here, keeping my fingers out of the way, is about 1/3 of the way across on each side, go on and cut down the carrot. And then depending on how I feel about how big that carrot is, then I've got some nice carrot sticks. I can stick those in my lunch, my husband's lunch, or like I said, cut them down further as I need them. I'm creating a greater likelihood that I'm going to use those vegetables later on in the week. Another way that you can, of course, do your carrots too, go on and cut them into chunks, just like you would for a soup. If you have some celery or some onion, you can go on and cut this on up with your carrots, and you've got a great base for a soup or a sauce. You can go on and store them ready to go in measurements that you might need for later on in the week. I like to use mason jars because I know that the lid is going to stay on. It's really easy to find the right lid that matches. You don't have to go searching through the cabinets. Plus you can see exactly what's in this container. Another thing that you could do with carrot sticks, if you don't feel like just eating them raw, if you were to cut enough to fill this mason jar, you could do a really quick pickle with just a little bit of salt, vinegar, maybe some spices that you like dill or garlic clove or allspice berries, and they will last about a week or two in your refrigerator, and you don't have to do any canning, right? You're basically just doing a longer marinade for your carrots. So that's something that I like to do with crunchy vegetables like carrots or with these snap peas. And these snap peas are really sweet and delicious. They're a fun vegetable to eat raw if you're kind of tired of carrot and celery. Kids like them because they're pretty sweet and they're just kind of different, right? With the snap peas, you can eat the pod and the pea, that they're designed to be eaten that way. So this is not something that you'll need to shell. You can see one got away, but they're pretty crunchy and sweet. Honestly, eating them raw is probably my favorite thing to do. But you could throw them in and make a mixed veggie pickle. You could do a quick stir fry with some chicken or pork, or keep it vegetarian and use tofu, maybe a little bit of ginger and garlic. And that would be a really easy vegetable side or main dish to use with these snap peas. But if you're not ready to cook them yet, you can go on and leave them in a plastic bag, seal up the bag. Usually what I like to do, if I have a bigger bag like this, is go on and fold it and keep most of that air out. Plus it takes up a little bit less room in the fridge. That's all the tips that I've got for you today. I hope I got you thinking about some new ways to store and use your vegetables. We'll see you next time.